Yo, what's up? Is someone that's no one, and welcome back to another collection of trip reports. Today we're doing something new for this series, where we're going to focus on reports coming from just one person. Dazai sent a few reports over time to us, detailing a pretty sensitive part of his life where he got exposed to some hallucinogens, namely DXM, DPH, and Datura. We get a look at how he got into these substances, while at the same time, we see how these trips brought him to a state of mind where he takes a step back and makes sure he doesn't follow a path of abuse. These are some great reports, and it's really cool how they connect together. So I'm sure you'll enjoy this. Without further ado, let's dive right into this. And also make sure to check out his Instagram, guys. He's made some thumbnails for the channel now, and also makes art on some other cool stuff, so go give my boy a follow.
My dark escape. Datura report number 1. 32 seeds used in 24-hour period. Forward. I'm not going into too much detail of what Datura is. All I will say is that it is a poisonous nightshade plant that can be used recreationally as a delirium drug. Safe dosages on this drug are very hard to figure out. In a way, it's safe to say that there are no safe dosages. This drug is basically a poison. In fact, throughout history, it has been used as a poison on numerous occasions. Why did I choose this drug, you might ask? It's simple. To escape reality. I hate this fucking world more than anything. Using recreational drugs is the only thing that helps me escape this world. So, that's exactly what I do. I found out about Datura from a YouTube video about some people's bad experiences with it. The word bad doesn't faze me in this case. I liked everything else I heard. Very intense hallucinations that can't be distinguished from reality. That's what I want. No, I was not ignorant. I knew very well that I could accidentally kill myself with the wrong dosage. But that didn't matter to me. It's a win-win whether I die or live. In my opinion, if I live, I disassociate from reality. If I die, I permanently separate myself from reality. No, this is not a suicide note. In fact, when I initially ordered the seeds, I began writing a Datura suicide note. I was very much prepared to die. I wanted to leave something behind for those who I believed cared about me. Things have changed. I remember I was talking to my Twitter friend who was going to distribute the note if I didn't respond to him in 3 days, and I told him I was going to take one of the doses. He asked if I had sent him the note yet. I replied, no, there's no need anymore. I have nothing left to say to anyone. I truly have no one left in this world that I want to say anything to. This writing isn't really meant to be distributed, at least to people I know. I just figured that any information I have on the drug can be useful to any other brave warriors who want to take it. Whether I live or die, other people need to see this, just to have more knowledge on a plant that is otherwise completely mysterious. Thursday, October 24th, around 2 p.m. Accidental intoxication. The plan was simple. Crush the seeds, mix them into chocolate milk, and drink. I took out 10 seeds from a packet and put them in a plastic bag. I attempted to crush them with a knife, both the blade and the handle. No luck. These seeds were very hard. I then put them in my grinder for CBD and weed and attempted to crush them with that. Some did get crushed, but others remained intact. I gave up, emptied them in a pot, and slowly began mixing them in chocolate syrup. I gradually would add in milk so the chocolate and milk would mix well. While doing so, I taste tested maybe 1 or 2 spoonfuls. After I finished, I poured the mixture in a cup for later consumption. Shortly after, I felt dizzy and disoriented. I realized a little bit after that I may have accidentally intoxicated myself with either holding the seeds with my bare hands are the few spoonfuls. I was supposed to go to class at 3:30, but realized I cannot in that current state. Thursday, October 24th, around 5 p.m., half a cup of chocolate milk, around 5 seeds. I invited over a few friends over to supervise me. They really weren't there for my safety, though. They were there because I offered to order in food for them to eat. When they arrived, I ordered the food and drank half of the chocolate milk. I decided to drink only half because of how strong the intoxication from earlier was. The drunk-like feeling came back a little stronger, but nothing too major. Thursday, October 24th, around 8 p.m., second half a cup of chocolate milk, around 5 seeds. Same as earlier, I felt the drunk sensation again, but it wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted to hallucinate. The third friend left, and I was alone. I was ready to give up the night and try again next week with the remaining seeds. Thursday, October 24th, around 9:30 p.m., 10 seeds, chewed. I was bored, on my computer. At that point, I realized that there was no point in waiting for the next dose. I counted 10 seeds and threw them in my mouth. If memory is correct, they tasted like morning glory seeds. I can't explain that taste too well, with a hint of tobacco-type scent. It was disgusting. I washed it down with Gatorade. No drunk-like side effects this time. As I began lying in bed, my mouth became incredibly dry. I grew excited. I know what you're thinking. Why the fuck would that excite you? The answer is that is one of the common Datura side effects. I felt like it might have been working. I tried to stay hydrated before I went to sleep, but with no prevail. I just gave up and passed out around 1 a.m. 3 or so hours later, around 4, I woke up shivering with an extremely dry mouth, like my mouth had never been this dry before. I drank some water, but to no prevail again. I don't know what I dreamt about, but it had to be something very intense if I was shivering. I checked my phone, and I had received a call from Reptile, a whore who I decided to name after the NIN song, since she is the embodiment of the reptile. This was strange. The day before, I told her I wanted to permanently cut ties with her. I was pretty sure we both agreed to not be friends anymore. I then started thinking about how Datura's hallucinations are difficult to distinguish from reality. Could this have been a hallucination on a Datura trip? No, at least I don't think so. If it is, I could be tripping right now and be unaware of it. I texted her and said, "Is everything okay? It says you called an hour ago." I went back to sleep despite the dry mouth and shivering. I woke up a few more times after, but finally decided to get up around 11. I received a text back from her, and she said, "Yeah, it was an accident. Sorry." I felt a little reassured. That seemed a little more realistic, and it helped me realize I wasn't hallucinating. Anyway, my guess is she was changing my contact name to something bad and accidentally clicked call. I can't imagine anything else. Friday, October 25th, around 11 p.m., 12 seeds laced in CBD. I decided to give it a final shot. I really wanted to escape reality, and I was all out of LSD and shrooms. I put my last 12 seeds in my grinder, and I ground them up. Then I ground up some CBD. I emptied the grinder on my desk and mixed them with an old credit card. I put the mixture in a joint and went outside to smoke it. Upon returning, I felt kind of high, like I had just smoked weed. After an hour of that, I decided to up the ante. I poured some Everclear in a cup and mixed in some iced tea. I drank it. The effects of that were different than a regular drunk. I felt like my body was more in control, but my brain felt kind of scrambled. I then rolled up another CBD joint and smoked it outside. After a few hours, around 5, I crashed. I felt like utter shit. I felt so disoriented. It kind of reminded me of the time I took 3 LSD tabs with some alcohol. I guess mixing drugs can bring out any number of unpredictable effects, so I assumed That's what happened. Around 7, I had to go to Anime Club because I was the one responsible for bringing the Amazon Fire Stick, which we used to stream the anime. I was feeling a little better, so I figured the Datura was out of my system. Halfway through club, my heart started racing and my vision was fading in and out. I was even wearing my glasses, but I was having trouble seeing at times. I was also starting to sweat. I decided to check my pulse, and I was doing around 160 heartbeats per minute. That's the kind of heart rate you get from a workout. Yet, I was sitting down doing absolutely nothing. We were supposed to watch only 3 episodes in club that day, and I was ready to bolt out and go back to my apartment. That was when the reptile made me play another episode. I briefly stepped out to breathe in the bathroom. My pupils were really dilated. I endured the rest of that episode and bolted out around 9:30, stumbling as if I was drunk and clutching my chest. No one really asked me what was wrong, mainly because no one actually cares. It was sort of like a long anxiety attack, but it had no end. As I got outside, it was dark, but there were bright lights everywhere. Not only was my vision still fucking with me, but I found the bright lights extra disorienting. Occasionally, I would feel like I was being followed, but it was just my shadow. When I was walking, I had headphones on, and I was listening to music to calm down. I was startled by a loud noise. It was hard to make out what it was, but it sounded like either a car revving its engine or crashing. There was no car in sight. I usually don't get startled easily, but I was definitely scared. I finally made it back to my apartment around 10 p.m. I went to the bathroom, but not a whole lot came out. I do not think I was fully constipated. Then I sat down to write all of this. Datura Report Number 1 Conclusion. I still feel like crap, but not as bad. I am certainly not done with Datura. I ordered more seeds, even some dried up leaves. I want to get the full effects of it. Next time, I'm going to take a higher dosage. I don't care what happens to me. In fact, I am prepared for my next time using Datura to be my last. I have no regrets, and I have nothing left to say to anyone. I hope the next batch of Datura will come in the mail by next Thursday. That is my next planned dosage. Despite me only receiving the negative effects this time, this excites me. I see dealing with a disoriented mind and body as a fun challenge, a challenge I cannot wait to conquer. Even in death, I still have won. I am the ultimate winner. I am not mad. I am saner than I have ever been. I am not dead. I am more alive than I have ever been. I even have more perspective on those around me who I call friends. I am truly alone in this world, but I am fine with that. Want to know something? I only turned to drugs because I had nothing to look forward to in my life. I had nothing to hold on to. Things have changed. I am actually looking forward to my next Datura dosage because it's a new challenge for me to conquer. It's the only thing I have to hold on to now. I don't care if I die or live, but what I do care about is the journey that I take to decide my fate. DPH 1000 milligrams, making all of my nightmares a reality. Before I start this report, I would like to mention some of the other drugs I have used recreationally. I choose to use these drugs to escape my cruel reality, but with no prevail. I have smoked marijuana on many occasions, but it gives off little to no effect on me. I have tried LSD a few times. The first time it gave me a little euphoria, but no hallucinations. Also, it didn't work on me the other times. I have had shrooms around 4 times, and only one of those times I felt like I actually had a trip. Although, this trip is nothing compared to the trip in which I am going to discuss. Finally, I have tried Datura. I took around 32 seeds, chewed up, in a 24-hour period. I felt nothing besides the negative side effects, such as dry mouth and sensitivity to light. After doing some research online, I found out that Benadryl contains a substance called DPH that is a deliriant if taken in larger than recommended dosages. I looked in stores for a big bottle of it, but I couldn't find any without the wrapping for individual pills. I ended up buying a bottle of 500 or so pills on Amazon for like $10. I am writing this morning after the trip while it's still fresh in my mind. Yesterday, after class, around 5:30, I began my preparations for my trip. First, I brought 5 water bottles into my room. I took a Sharpie and wrote, "Nothing is real, no spiders," and DPH 1000 milligrams on my left arm. I did so as to have a reminder to myself when I start hallucinating. I came to this decision after reading other trip reports. Next, I wrote a half-assed suicide note in the event I died from the overdose. Finally, I was ready to count the pills. I suddenly had a bad feeling and decided to take 32 pills, 800 milligrams, instead of 40 pills. After swallowing the pills, I decided 8 more pills won't make a difference, so I counted out and swallowed 8 more, making a total of 1000 milligrams. After doing so, I was reunited with that bad feeling. They hadn't kicked in yet, but I was thinking it would have been much better to start with a much smaller dosage. I gave up and just let it happen. I wasn't going to stick my fingers down my throat. I put some music on, sat back in my chair, and watched some videos on YouTube. Within 20 minutes, I felt tingly and my legs started feeling numb. Here we go, I thought to myself. In the beginning, I was just seeing a lot of colors and shapes, the kind that people describe their LSD trips with. I reassured myself that I was fine and it wasn't going to be too bad. I also noticed that my limbs felt really light. After a little more time passed, at this point, I lost any sense of time. I had to pee. I got up, wobbling as if I was really drunk, then made it to the bathroom. I pulled my pants down and noticed my penis was really small. It freaked the hell out of me. That's when I remembered reading that using Benadryl to trip can temporarily shrink your penis. I peed and went back to my chair. I then started purging the water bottles I set up for myself. My mouth was really dry. That was when I started noticing the floor had these weird white squiggly shapes moving around. I found this very interesting, even though I was aware that it was an illusion. Next, I heard a buzzing sound and saw a little black fruit fly. It landed on my desk, and I pressed my finger onto it in attempts to crush it. I removed my finger, and there was nothing under it. I then realized that it was fake. I went onto Discord to tell an online friend about all of this, but I couldn't keep any consistent thoughts or ideas. I would start typing very slowly, and then midway through a sentence, I would forget what I was trying to say and attempt to start a new sentence. I repeated this a few times, but gave up after I realized there was no point in trying. After some more time passed, I heard a knock and my name being called by my roommate from behind my door. I wasn't sure if it was real or not because I didn't hear it too well. I stumbled out of my room and saw my roommate, Alex, in the kitchen. Yes, he was really there, I confirmed with him afterwards. I tried to say, "Did you call me?" But that's not what came out. It was complete gibberish. After a few more failed attempts, trying to speak what I meant, he asked, "You good, man?" I once again struggled to tell him what I meant. I kept repeating, "Took 40 Benadryl." Finally, he understood what I was saying, and he looked at me in disbelief. He said, "What the fuck were you thinking, dude? You trying to kill yourself?" I looked concerned, and he might have suspected it was a suicide attempt, since I attempted it once in the past before. I kept repeating, I wanted to trip, again and again, until I believed he finally understood me. I returned to my room. As I entered the room, I noticed a bunch of white semi-transparent small spiders on the floor. I looked at my arm and said, "No spiders," out loud. Despite this, I still saw them, and they began crawling up my legs, and I definitely felt them. I wasn't too terrified, so I just wiped them off and returned to the seat by my desk. Throughout the next few hours, not actually sure how long, I kept hearing knocks on my door and different voices I recognized calling my name. I would frequently open my door slightly and peek through to be greeted by the pitch black living room with no one in it. Then I started hearing voices I didn't recognize that I believed were coming from the living room. I thought I heard one of them mention they were from apartment maintenance. I opened the door slightly, assuming to see an empty room. I was surprised. The room was still pitch black, but there was a stranger sleeping on my couch and a man in work clothes in the kitchen. I figured that the stranger on the couch was a friend of my other roommates and that the man was from apartment maintenance. It would have looked weird if I just closed the door after peeking through. I went to the kitchen passing the maintenance guy, smiled, and grabbed a water from the fridge, turning my back on the two strangers. When I looked back, they were both gone, in thin air. I immediately made the connection that they were illusions and returned to my room. Shortly after, there was another knock on my door. It was Alex, and asked me to step out of my room to talk with him. He sat on the couch, and right before I sat, I realized I didn't have my phone and went back to retrieve it. Upon returning, I noticed Alex was gone. What an asshole, I thought. He called me out here just to ditch me. I soon went back to hearing disembodied voices that I believed were coming from the living room. This time, I recognized them. It was Kelly, a friend of mine whose apartment suite is directly across from mine, and Ron, her boyfriend. They were talking to Alex about me. They were worried and were talking about calling 911. I started to panic. If I was brought to the hospital for an overdose again, I would have to be institutionalized again for a longer time. Being institutionalized is my all-time biggest fear. I calmed down a little bit and started making plans to outsmart them so I wouldn't have to go. I thought about escaping through my balcony. I am on the first floor, so I would have been fine. Then I thought about confronting them and telling them I was fine. I opened my door again to be greeted once more by the pitch-black living room. I was still hearing the voices. I looked through the peephole and I saw Alex, Ron, and Kelly talking in the hallway. I heard one of them mention that the ambulance should be here soon. Ready to try and reason with them, but I was greeted by another surprise. There was no one in the hallway. I went back into the apartment and I was hearing the voices again. I made the assumption that they were all in Alex's room. I didn't feel like going in, so I went back to my room. Yet, I was still able to hear them. I used this as my advantage to eavesdrop. I heard my parents on the phone with them. This was another big fear of mine. I didn't want to get my parents involved because it would make things much worse. Plus, there would be a 3-hour drive to see me. I thought I heard Kelly say that I tried to overdose again, and my parents sounded uneasy. Fuck, I thought. I had been cornered. I returned to my room, locking my door. Occasionally, I would still hear knocks on my door, but I would ignore them for the most part. Finally, the effects began wearing off. I practiced talking, and I was sure that I sounded normal again. I saw light peer through the crack under my door, and opened my door to see Alex in the kitchen. We started talking casually, and I was about to bring up when he disappeared from the couch, and then stopped myself. I realized he was probably never on the couch. To top it off, I asked him what time it was, and he said it was 9. I thought it was 9 a.m. of the next day, but then he corrected me and said it was 9 p.m. That meant that my trip, that felt like an eternity, was only a little over 3 hours. I said bye and returned to my room. I then started hearing his, Kelly, and Ron's voices again. They were still talking about me. I inspected the pitch-black living room, empty. I looked through the peephole again. I saw them through the peephole, but when I opened the door again, the hallway was still empty. I returned to my room and messaged Alex on Discord. I asked, "Where are you?" "In my room," he replied. "Oh, I think I can hear you guys from here." "What?" he asked. "There's no one here but me." Holy fuck, I thought. Kelly and Ron were never even here, and it was likely that Alex was in his room for the entire night. Aside from the first confrontation, when I couldn't speak properly, this was all in my head, and it freaked the hell out of me. My biggest fears were thought to becoming my reality, but it was just the drug. I got in my bed, preparing to sleep. I saw spiders everywhere still, but I didn't care. They weren't real. After a while of moving around in my bed, I finally managed to go to sleep. Today, when I woke up, I was very dehydrated and my heart was racing. I went to my bathroom and felt a whole lot better. There was a silver lining. My penis returned to its original size.
D Drug Trilogy Conclusion. Here it is, my first ever DXM report, and sort of a happy ending to my druggy trilogy. Who am I? I thought to myself. How did I get here? I look around in the room that I spend most of my time in, yet it is so foreign to me. I can hardly recognize it anymore. Just a few moments ago, I had thought I had died. Straight ahead of me is a record turntable. What is this device? I ask myself. I come to realization of the record turntable's purpose. It is a device that plays records and outputs music, I justify to myself. I hear music, but it's coming from my phone, yet I am unable to realize that. It must be coming from that contraption ahead of me, I reassure myself, despite the turntable not being powered on. At the time, these thoughts felt so natural to me, yet looking back at it now, I feel strange, I thought to myself. I came to the realization that this is not the way I, as a human being, should be feeling. My body felt strange. I felt so light and numb. I felt a moving cold sensation on the back of my head. I must be intoxicated or something. That must be it, I reassured myself. I looked at my left arm and noticed writings in Sharpie that read, DXM 900 milligrams. Aha, I thought. I must have overdosed on cough medicine. For a second, I felt like I was starting to get a hold of myself, that I was finally understanding the situation I was in. Yet it brought up more questions. Why did I overdose on cough medication? I asked myself. I then remembered my initial question. Who am I? I had no answer. More importantly, why did I find myself in a position where I needed to overdose on this medication? Music continued playing on my phone, and I was beginning to realize that the turntable in front of me was not the origin of the music. It was a small device on my desk. What is this music? I asked. It must be something I like, otherwise I wouldn't be listening to it, I justified myself. Looking back, I do not remember the exact song, but I'm pretty sure it was from the 9 Inch Nails' Year Zero album. I then started having flashes of memories come piece by piece, yet these memories didn't feel like they were mine. They felt like I was watching someone else's life. My understanding at the time, I am the person that makes up this body I am controlling. Despite this, I have lost my identity. I have no sense of who I am. I most likely need to reflect on these memories to understand why I'm here and who I am. Although, control was an overstatement. I was barely able to move. I was glued to my desk chair, forced to remain in deep thought. Who is that? I thought, as one flash of a memory involved a friend of mine, Ron. I remember flashes of good times, and some bad times. He must be a friend of mine, yet he said those hurtful things about me. This body I am in control of. I questioned as I remembered a fight I had with him a few months prior. Human friends fight sometimes. It's a part of life, right? He is my friend. He must be my friend, I justified to myself. I felt as if I put two pieces of a very large puzzle together. My mind was slowly retaking its form. As I sat there on my chair, I started to zone out. I felt as if I was in a different room, yet still in the chair. The room was empty, full of a black and white checkerboard pattern floor. I sat in my chair, in a corner. Most likely a cough medication hallucination, I justified to myself. I hear a voice. I can't put my finger on it. It sounds so familiar, yet so foreign. You chose to put yourself here, the voice shouted at me. You took an unhealthy dosage of that medication. You are the only one to blame, it continued. Who is the owner of that voice? I thought to myself. I had more flashes of memories. These memories consisted of my drug abuse in the past few months. I get it now. I'm some type of junkie, I would imagine, I thought to myself. I thought a little bit more about it and came to this conclusion. These memories are all recent. Why is it that I'm only doing these drugs as of a few months ago? I asked myself. Good, you are getting somewhere. That disembodied voice barked at me. I noticed a door in that room, and I was hearing knocks and people calling my name. Despite my name being called, I did not comprehend or hear it. I just knew it was my name, but I just couldn't hear it. I made a connection to what I was hearing. This hallucination must be representing the DPH-induced delirium psychosis I was in from one of those memories. For context, I took 40 Benadryl last week and was hallucinating people knocking on my door and calling my name. I justified to myself. At least I am aware this is a hallucination this time, I thought to myself with a smirk. That's when it hit me. I experienced that in first person, as if it was my own memory, unlike I was previously. I realized I was making progress. Take a look at this, the disembodied voice muttered at me. The next memory flash I had was of me losing my virginity, from a little over a month ago. Ah, sex, the human method for reproduction, I thought to myself. I then started to feel confused. Why was I having sex if I had no intentions on reproduction? I asked myself. My state of mind at that point was not that of a human. It was something else. I couldn't understand why two humans would have sex without intentions of procreating. It's very odd that I did that, I thought to myself. I also noticed that the me in the memories didn't seem to enjoy sex. My disconnected mind made the connection that sex is strictly for impregnation and that I didn't enjoy it because sex isn't meant to be enjoyed. It's for reproduction. In actuality, I am unsure why I didn't enjoy the sex, but this sure made things difficult for me getting a hold of my identity. Who is that girl? I asked myself. I had dozens of memories of her flash by me, each with me spending time with her and me saying her name to her. Ah, that's Leia, I justified to myself. For a second, I felt great that I was able to identify someone else in my memory. Yet this comfort was countered with another problem. What do I think of her? What does she mean to me? What do I mean to her? I asked myself these questions with no prevail. Her appearance began fading away from my fractured memories. I was starting to forget what she looked like. Who is she? What is her purpose? Did I have sex with her? Why did I have sex with her? I had no answers to these questions. In fact, my memory of her began fading further away. I stopped seeing her as a person, and more as an idea. Is she a human, or is she a mere concept I made up? I asked myself. Take a look at more of these memories. The disembodied voice yelled at me. I remember spending more time with her, but this time it was different. It was all of our fights and bad times. More importantly, the fight that ended our friendship. She was growing so distant from me. She was avoiding me for reasons I could not put together. I confronted her, and she shrugged it off like it was nothing. She was acting so cold-blooded to me, like a reptile. I was drunk, and I told her that we shouldn't be friends anymore. I didn't mean it, but I couldn't take it back. She didn't want to speak to me anymore. I fucked up. I remember this first person. Leia, I muttered. I kept repeating her name. Finally, I was starting to grasp at a memory as if it were my own. She was one of my best friends, and we casually messed around. That was what I was remembering. Now she was gone away. She's gone away. Now, I have to accept that. She didn't want to speak with me anymore. I meant nothing to her anymore, if ever. And I had to just give in and accept that. Wait a minute, I thought to myself. Sex isn't just for reproduction. It is for pleasure too. I finally started to grasp back at my humanity. Despite me never enjoying sex, I was starting to finally understand that again. Finally, I came to the biggest conclusion of why I'm here, and what put me in this situation. Drugs. I am, depressed, and turned to drugs. Almost 3 months ago, I was shortly sober. Then a friend offered me wine, and I couldn't refuse it because alcohol always numbed my pain away. Then I naturally fell into a downward spiral of psychedelics, dissociates, and even deliriums. I wanted to detach myself from reality so much, and here I was, as detached as I could possibly get. I wasn't even myself, yet I was in my own body. I started understanding myself. I was using drugs to cover up a larger problem, and I finally understood that. Now that I came to this big realization, I now had to figure out my name to return to reality. I then started hearing a bunch of nicknames that I had been called over the years. They all sounded natural to me. I felt like my name didn't matter so much, but that was just my detachment from reality speaking. What is your name? The disembodied voice asked. I finally recognized the voice. It was my voice. I knew my name. I shouted, "My name is..." The door in the room opened, and a light shined through, blinding me. I was back in my apartment room, in front of the record turntable, I got up, feeling very intoxicated, almost if I was drunk, but I was able to tell it was different. For the first time in my life, I truly felt human. I came to this feeling due to the fact that I felt so inhuman when I forgot who I was. Now I remembered who I am, and that I had to make big changes in my life to get better. The next day, I felt really refreshed and happy, euphoric you might say. I was experiencing the DXM afterglow. It was honestly the happiest I had ever felt in my entire life. I knew right then and there that this first DXM trip would be far from my last.